Chapter 1. The Fall. The alarms blared as the evacuation pods jettisoned from the dying starship. Lieutenant Commander Nora Hawkins gripped the harness tightly, her knuckles turning white as the pod shook violently. The distant explosions of the USV Indomitable faded into the void as the escape vessel hurtled towards the surface of the alien planet. "Brace for impact," the pod's AI announced, its voice eerily calm amidst the chaos. Nora closed her eyes, images of the Xelar attack flashing through her mind. The insectoid race had ambushed the Indomitable without warning, their advanced weaponry tearing through the ship's defenses like paper. She had barely managed to reach the escape pod before the ship's reactor core went critical. The pod slammed into the ground, the impact throwing Nora against her harness. Pain shot through her body as the pod skidded to a halt, its metal hull groaning under the strain. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of escaping air and the crackle of flames outside. Nora hit the release button on her harness, wincing as she stood up. She checked her suit's integrity, relieved to find no breaches. Grabbing the emergency kit, she pushed open the pod's hatch and stepped out onto the alien world. A desolate landscape stretched before her, the horizon dominated by towering, twisted spires of rock. The air was thin and cold, and a sickly green sun hung low in the sky. Nora activated her suit's beacon, hoping to locate other survivors. To her surprise, a single ping responded, weak but steady. With a deep breath, Nora set off towards the signal, her mind racing with questions. Who else had survived the attack? How would they find a way off this hostile world? And most importantly, what had the Xelar wanted with a simple exploration vessel? As she walked, Nora couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger struggle, one that would test the limits of human perseverance and ingenuity in the face of an implacable foe. Chapter 2. Rendevu. Nora trudged through the rugged terrain, her suit's HUD displaying the weak signal from the other survivor. The planet's sickly green sun beat down on her, casting an eerie glow across the desolate landscape. She paused to check her suit's readings, confirming that the atmosphere was breathable but laced with toxic compounds. As she climbed over a jagged ridge, Nora's eyes widened in disbelief. In the distance, the wreckage of the USV Indomitable lay scattered across the valley floor, its once mighty hull now a twisted mass of metal. She swallowed hard, realizing the magnitude of the destruction the Xelar had wrought. The signal led Nora to a small cave entrance, where she found Lieutenant Jace Riker, the Indomitable's weapons officer, slumped against the wall. His suit was badly damaged, and he was barely conscious. "Riker, can you hear me?" Nora asked, kneeling beside him. Jace groaned, his eyes fluttering open. "Commander Hawkins? I thought I was the only one." "Not quite," Nora said, forcing a smile. "We need to get you patched up and figure out our next move." As Nora tended to Jace's wounds, they discussed the Xelar attack and the implications for the human colonies. The Indomitable had been on a mission to establish a new outpost on the planet, designated Colony HFY-1, when the Xelar ambushed them. "The Xelar have always seen us as a threat," Jace said, wincing as Nora applied a sealant to his suit. "They fear our adaptability and resilience." Nora nodded grimly. "And now they've made their move. We need to find a way to contact the fleet and warn them." Their conversation was interrupted by a distant rumble, followed by the unmistakable sound of Xelar craft approaching. Nora and Jace exchanged a look of dread, realizing that their fight for survival had only just begun. Key points. Nora discovers the wreckage of the USV Indomitable and the scale of the destruction. She finds another survivor, Lieutenant Jace Riker, and tends to his wounds. Nora and Jace discuss the Xelar's motives and the need to warn the human fleet. The approaching Xelar craft signals an impending threat and raises the stakes for the survivors. The chapter further develops the world, characters, and the central conflict. Chapter 3. Against all odds. The sickly green sun hung low on the horizon, casting an eerie glow across the desolate landscape. Nora and Jace crouched behind the twisted wreckage of the USV Indomitable, their hearts pounding as the Xelar craft descended from the sky. "We need to move," Nora whispered, her eyes scanning the surroundings for cover. "If they find us, we're as good as dead." Jace nodded, his face etched with determination. "There's a cave system about 1 kilometer from here. It might be our best chance to evade them." Without hesitation, they set off across the barren terrain, their suits' camouflage systems blending them into the rocky outcroppings. The distant hum of the Xelar engines grew louder with each passing second, a constant reminder of the impending danger. As they neared the caves, a sudden explosion rocked the ground behind them. Nora turned to see a plume of smoke rising from the wreckage of the Indomitable. The Xelar had opened fire, obliterating any evidence of the human presence. "They're not taking any chances," Jace growled, his fists clenched. "They want to wipe us out, once and for all." Nora's mind raced as they entered the dark, winding tunnels of the cave system. The Xelar's ruthless efficiency was unnerving, but she refused to let fear consume her. They had to find a way to contact the human fleet, to warn them of the impending threat. "There has to be a communication array somewhere on this planet," she said, her voice echoing off the damp walls. "The Indomitable was here to establish a colony. They would have set up a backup system in case of an emergency." Jace's eyes widened. "You're right. If we can find it, we might be able to send a distress signal." As they ventured deeper into the caves, the weight of their mission settled upon their shoulders. They were the last line of defense, the only hope for the human race. Against all odds, they had to persevere. Little did they know, the Xelar were not the only threat lurking in the shadows of Colony HFY-1. The planet itself held secrets that would test their resolve and challenge everything they thought they knew about survival. Chapter 4. The Gauntlet. Nora and Jace ventured deeper into the labyrinthine cave system, their headlamps casting eerie shadows on the jagged walls. The air grew thicker, and a pungent, alien odor assaulted their nostrils. Nora consulted her suit's scanner, the faint signal of the backup communication array blinking steadily on the display. "We're getting closer," she said, her voice echoing in the confined space. "But this cave, there's something strange about it." Jace nodded, his eyes narrowing. "I feel it too. It's almost as if..." A sudden screech tore through the air, and a creature emerged from the shadows, its chitinous exoskeleton glistening in the headlamp's glare. It lunged at Nora, razor-sharp claws extended. She reacted on instinct, dodging the attack and firing her sidearm. The creature hissed as the energy bolt seared its flesh, but it kept coming. Jace joined the fray, his own weapon drawn. Together, they fought back against the creature, their shots echoing through the cave. Finally, the beast slumped to the ground, its life extinguished. "What the hell was that?" Jace panted, wiping sweat from his brow. Nora knelt beside the corpse, studying its features. "It looks like some kind of Xelar bioweapon. They must have seeded the planet with these things." "Great," Jace muttered, "as if we didn't have enough to worry about." They pressed on, the cave's twisted passages seeming to close in around them. More creatures emerged from the shadows, each one more grotesque than the last. Nora and Jace fought their way through the gauntlet, their skills and determination put to the ultimate test. As they rounded a bend, they found themselves in a vast cavern. In the center stood a towering structure, its surface adorned with alien technology, the backup communication array. "We made it," Nora breathed, a smile spreading across her face. But their triumph was short-lived. A deep, guttural roar filled the cavern, and a massive creature emerged from the depths, its eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. The Xelar bioweapon queen. Nora and Jace exchanged a glance, their resolve hardening. They knew that this was their final obstacle, the last thing standing between them and their chance to warn the fleet. With a battle cry on their lips, they charged forward, ready to face the Queen and the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Chapter 5. The Bioweapon Queen. Nora and Jace stood at the edge of the vast cavern, their eyes locked on the monstrous Xelar Bioweapon Queen. The creature's chitinous exoskeleton glistened in the dim light, and its mandibles dripped with a venomous ichor. The backup communication array, their only hope of warning the human fleet, lay just beyond the Queen's reach. "We need a plan," Jace whispered, his voice strained with exhaustion and pain. Nora's mind raced, analyzing their options. "We split up," she said, her tone resolute. "I'll distract the Queen while you make a run for the array." Jace hesitated, wanting to protest, but the determination in Nora's eyes silenced him. He nodded, knowing that time was running out. With a deep breath, Nora stepped forward, drawing the Queen's attention. The behemoth let out a deafening screech, its compound eyes fixating on the human challenger. Nora fired her plasma rifle, the shots searing the Queen's armored hide. As the Queen lunged at Nora, Jace sprinted towards the communication array, his heart pounding in his chest. He dodged the smaller bioweapons that emerged from the shadows, their chittering echoing through the cavern. Nora danced around the Queen's strikes, her agility and quick reflexes keeping her one step ahead. She unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts, aiming for the creature's weak points, its eyes and joints. Jace reached the communication array, his fingers flying over the controls. He initiated the distress signal, praying that it would reach the human fleet in time. Suddenly, a searing pain shot through his leg as a bioweapon's claw found its mark. Jace gritted his teeth, refusing to let the injury stop him. Across the cavern, Nora's luck ran out. The Queen's massive tail slammed into her, sending her crashing against the rocky wall. Dazed and battered, Nora struggled to her feet, her vision blurring. The Queen loomed over her, ready to deliver the final blow. In that moment, a blinding light filled the cavern. The backup communication array hummed to life, its signal pulsing through the planet's atmosphere. The Queen recoiled, screeching in pain as the electromagnetic waves disrupted its senses. Seizing the opportunity, Nora charged forward, leaping onto the Queen's back. With a primal roar, she plunged her plasma blade into the creature's head, piercing its brain. The Queen convulsed violently before collapsing to the ground, its lifeless body twitching. Nora stumbled towards Jace, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Did it work?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jace nodded, a weary smile on his face. "The signal is out. Now, we wait and hope." As they sat beside the communication array, their wounds mending, Nora and Jace knew that their battle was far from over. The Xelar threat still loomed, and the fate of Colony HFY-1 hung in the balance. But for now, they had achieved a small victory, a glimmer of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. The resilience of the human spirit had carried them this far, and it would continue to guide them through the challenges ahead. For in the depths of space, on a hostile alien world, the survivors of the USV Indomitable had proven that humanity would not go quietly into the night. Key points. The chapter opens with a tense standoff between the survivors and the Xelar Bioweapon Queen. Nora and Jace split up, with Nora distracting the Queen while Jace makes a run for the communication array. The action is intense and fast-paced, with vivid descriptions of the battle against the Queen and the smaller bioweapons. Jace successfully activates the distress signal, but not without sustaining an injury. Nora faces a near-death experience, but ultimately triumphs over the Queen in a dramatic confrontation. The chapter ends on a hopeful note, with the distress signal sent and the survivors reflecting on their small victory. The resilience of the human spirit is highlighted, setting the stage for the final chapter and the challenges that still lie ahead. Chapter 6. Hope Endures. Nora rushed to Jace's side, her heart pounding as she assessed his injury. The wound was deep, but not fatal. She quickly applied a field dressing from her suit's medical kit, the pressure stemming the flow of blood. "You did it, Jace," she said, her voice filled with a mix of relief and exhaustion. "The signal is out. We've given humanity a fighting chance." Jace managed a weak smile. "We make a pretty good team, don't we?" Nora returned the smile, helping him to his feet. "That we do. Now, let's get out of this cave and find a way off this planet." As they made their way back through the winding tunnels, the weight of their ordeal began to sink in. They had faced impossible odds, battled nightmarish creatures, and emerged victorious, but their fight was far from over. They reached the mouth of the cave, the sickly green sun casting an eerie glow across the desolate landscape. In the distance, the wreckage of the USV Indomitable served as a stark reminder of the lives lost and the sacrifices made. Nora's suit crackled with static, and a garbled transmission came through. "Tenant Com, Hawkins, is the USV, Rabel, do you copy?" Hope surged through Nora's veins. She quickly adjusted her suit's communication settings, boosting the signal. "This is Lieutenant Commander Nora Hawkins of the USV Indomitable. We read you, USV Endurable. Over." A moment of silence, then a clear voice responded. "Commander Hawkins, it's damn good to hear your voice. We received your distress signal and are en route to your location. ETA, 2 hours. Nora looked to Jace, tears of relief welling in her eyes. "Copy that, Endurable. We'll be waiting." As the transmission ended, Nora and Jace sat on a nearby rock, their gazes fixed on the horizon. The battle against the Xelar was just beginning, but they had proven that humanity would not go quietly into the night. "When we get back," Jace said, breaking the silence, "I'm buying you a drink. Hell, I'm buying you a whole damned bar." Nora laughed, the sound echoing across the barren landscape. "I'll hold you to that, Lieutenant." They sat in companionable silence, the weight of their experiences forging an unbreakable bond between them. They were survivors, warriors, and a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. As the USV Endurable appeared on the horizon, Nora and Jace stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were the resilient, and they would fight for humanity's future, no matter the cost. The end.